Hi everybody, my name is Jonathan Key. Welcome to the Music Corner. During these episodes, I'm hoping that you pick up a few tips about how to be a better guitar player, and then take that knowledge and that experience and turn around and enjoy it as you play with other musicians and pass it on to other guitar players as well. Today's episode is going to feature power chords. Now, power chords are one of the easiest things to do on the guitar, but also one of the most useful things and one of the coolest things to do. So let's take a minute now and learn all about power chords. Grab your guitar, come on and enjoy this episode with me. Today's episode is going to be especially useful for you electric guitar, rock and roll guitar players. But I'm going to illustrate power chords on my acoustic guitar. They certainly sound just fine on acoustic guitar as well. Power chords are awesome. Anybody can do them. And they lead you down great roads, especially roads leading towards the world of hard rock music, heavy metal music, but interesting, great music of all different flavors. The Beatles used power chords, so anybody can have fun with power chords and can use them for the rest of your life in lots of great ways. So power chords. Again, I'm going to illustrate them on my acoustic guitar, but if some of you at home have electric guitars, now's the time to plug in your electric guitar and crank it up a little bit. Okay, let's get started here. Power chords, by their very nature, are a left-hand task. So we're going to be talking about doing a left-hand kind of workout today. I'm going to illustrate this power chord sound using my index and ring of my left hand. The first thing anyone needs to know about power chords is that they're easy, but they're focused on 2 or maybe 3 strings tops. So here I'm playing a G power chord. The name G, by the way, comes from the fact that my index finger is on the note G, on the fat string right here. Fat string, 3rd fret. That's my 6th string, 3rd fret. That's a note G. My ring finger is on the next string over, the 5th string, 5th fret. So I'm only squeezing on 2 different strings here, 6th string and 5th string. When it comes time to play this power chord, I'm not going to strum all the strings. I'm only going to strum the 2 that I'm touching. So this is a 2-string power chord. And it gets a great kind of thick sound. Now we're going to keep talking about power chords, but I'm going to give you a quick aside. You focus on my left hand here for a second. It might appear that my index finger is doing more than just squeezing on the fat string because of how it's sort of curving across the strings here. My index finger really is only doing one main job. It's squeezing hard on the fat string, but, and here's a tip, I'm letting it lean over a little bit to deaden out any of the other strings, really the 4 skinny ones. If you think about it, my 2 fingers here have the 2 fat strings covered. I know I'm going to get 2 good sounds. My index finger is leaning over a little bit, very lightly touching the other strings, so that if by mistake I happen to hit one of those 4 skinny strings with my pick, no musical sound whatsoever. That way I don't have to be quite so careful when I strum. Okay, so hopefully you've got your guitar out. You've got your index finger on the E string, the fat E string, 3rd fret, and that's the note G right there. And the 5th string, 5th fret. Okay? Also known as a G power chord. So let's stay right there with that grip for a minute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play a little bit for you to show you how power chords can be moved up and down the neck of the guitar while maintaining the same grip that you have right there, the same relationship, I should say. Watch this. Now you may have noticed my index and my ring never changed their fundamental relationship. The index finger was always squeezing on the fat string, ring finger always squeezing on the neighboring string, the 5th string, and they're always 2 frets apart, or you could say there's always 1 empty fret in between. If my index is on 7, my ring is on 9. If my index is on 1, my ring is on 3. Okay, you're with me? But I'm only squeezing the same 2 fat strings the whole time. Here comes a little bit more. Okay, so notice that my left hand was gliding up and down the guitar kind of quickly, but it wasn't fundamentally changing the job of either finger. Okay, power chords. You learn one power chord, really you've learned them all. Does that make sense? Power chord is a grip. Now, for those of you who have been playing the guitar for a little while already, you already have learned probably your A chord and your C chord and your A minor and E minor. Everyone has a different grip, right? They might share a finger here or there, but it's always a different grip. Not so with power chords. Power chords are fundamentally easier because it's one grip that's portable, movable, goes all up and down the guitar, okay? So, quick review. Wherever the index finger goes, that names the chord. So if my index finger squeezes on my F note right here, fat string 1, what I'm going to get is a resulting F power chord when I add on the ring finger in its position. Where does the ring finger go? It always goes on the next string, the next skinnier string, 2 frets higher. If this is at 1, that's at 3. That's the note F right there. So by definition, I get an F power chord. So here's an opportunity for me to give a little plug to learning the names of the notes in your guitar. It can be pretty intimidating when you stare at the neck of the guitar and you realize, or maybe your teacher points out to you, that everywhere you press on any string, there's a name for that note. And in the back of your mind, there might be a little voice that says that you're probably supposed to learn the name of every note everywhere on the guitar. That's a great goal, but that's not a mandatory goal, certainly not for today's lesson. So don't get too hung up on that. But what I'd like you to do is to, beginning right now, start memorizing the names of the notes on your fat E string. Number 1 is going to be a huge help in making you and helping you progress a lot faster on the guitar. Number 2, you probably know that you have a skinny E string down here too. If you memorize the fat string, by definition you've memorized the skinny string as well. So that's the note F on the fat string right there, right? And guess what? That's note F on the skinny string. So if you do, and I hope you do, memorize the names of the notes on your fat E string, well, you've actually memorized the notes of 2/3 of the guitar, right? 2 of the 6 strings. Okay, so let's get back to power chords here. If you know the name of the power chord that you're playing, or if someone asks you to play a certain power chord and you know where to go to get that power chord, it's going to help your progress so much. So that's why I'm emphasizing learning the names of the notes on the fat string. Okay, so we started on a G power chord with the left hand. I have my index finger on 3 on the fat E string. That's the note G. And then ring finger 5 on the A string, 5 on the 5th string. Notice I'm not bothering to tell you the name of that note. It's just not important right now. What is important is the name of that note right there, okay? G. So we have a G power chord. Now for fun, maybe you can do this with me. I'm going to strum this G power chord 4 times. I'm going to smoothly, quickly glide up 2 frets and strum this power chord known as an A power chord 4 times. I'm going to go back and forth, okay? G power chord. Lightly glide your hand up 2 frets, A power chord. All right, so let's start on the G, 4 steady strums. We're going to go back and forth a few times with these. Go ahead and do it with me. Okay, ready, play. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pretty easy, right? Now, one of the tricks to getting to the next power chord quickly in a song is not letting your fingers depart from the guitar strings. Now, common sense tells you it's the same grip wherever you go. If you're playing a song full of power chords, and there are tons of songs that are nothing but power chords, it makes no sense to let go of the guitar strings, right? So, your job, number 1, is to glide to whatever the next chord is, to glide there quickly, smoothly, but without letting go of the note with your index or the note with your ring finger. What I find myself doing is just relaxing. I play my 4 Gs, like we just did, and I just let my fingers relax just a little bit, okay? Not so much that they fall off the guitar, but just relax. You know, and after a little while playing the power chord, it's about time to give your fingers a break anyways. So relax and slide up at the same time, and then squeeze when you get to your next destination. Let's do it again. G chord, G power chord 4 times, A power chord 4 times. Ready, go. 2, 3, 4. A, 2, 3, 4. G, 2, 3, 4. A, 2, 3, 4. And again, no matter what it might look like, my middle finger isn't doing anything, my pinky isn't doing anything. It's just a 2-finger power chord. Even though it appears like my index finger might be squeezing lots of strings, it's really focused on the fat string. And I'm leaning over a little bit with my index finger, so if by mistake I strum one of the skinnier strings, no one hears it. Okay, so power chords. Power chords are found in all sorts of types of music, but definitely they're found in rock music an awful lot. I don't think rock musicians invented power chords, but they sure made use of them in zillions of rock songs going back 50 years at least. Okay, now we've talked about naming power chords. It's where your index finger goes. We've talked about how your ring finger is essentially along for the ride. Wherever the index finger goes, the ring finger goes along for the ride, maintain that same relationship, right? Now let's add another finger into the mix. What I'm going to do here, I'm on my G power chord, 3rd fret, 6th string, 5th fret, 5th string. I'm going to add on another G note. And conveniently, the other G note I'm adding on is found using my pinky finger, 4th string, 5th fret. I really tuck it right under my ring finger. Now, why would I want to add on an extra G when I already have a G right there? More power to the power chords. Now all of a sudden you have 3 strings ringing, right? It's a bigger sound. Musically, it's not adding any new musical information to the power chord. But in terms of rock and roll, yeah, it's adding an extra sound there that beefs up the sound. This is especially true when you've got your amplifier cranked up, you're playing your electric guitar, and now you have another frequency kicking into the mix. Okay, so now we have a 3-finger power chord. Totally easy, no big deal, gives your pinky something to do. Middle finger, not doing anything. Here's what it sounds like. So we have a low G note right there. When we have another G 1 octave higher. There. For those of you who are science-minded out there, the difference between the low G and the high G, the scientific difference, the higher G is vibrating at exactly twice the frequency of the low G. For mathematical purposes, let's see this low G is vibrating at 100 vibrations per second. That pinky G is vibrating at 200 vibrations per second. That's all. Okay. But in terms of making a loud sound, a full, rich sound of the guitar, it's great to have that extra pinky. Now you might ask, well then why don't we have it there all the time if it's so great? I'm going to show you in a minute some of the things you can do if your pinky is freed up from that task. Your pinky can actually add in some other sounds and you're going to like how it sounds. But for our purposes right now you know the 3-finger version of a power chord. Let's do the same thing. Let's do 4 strums on the G power chord with our pinky and 4 strums on the A power chord. And again, squeeze 4 strums, then just relax a little bit. Glide up as fast as you can, squeeze again. Okay? But think of that as a moment where you actually can give your hand a break. Whatever you do, don't lift your fingers away from the guitar though. You've got to touch the strings at all time. You're going to end up with some nice lines in your fingers. You should be proud of those lines. Okay, 4 strums in the G power chord with 3 fingers. Of course, in case I haven't made it clear, your pick now gets to strum 3 fat strings rather than just 2. Okay. Ready, play. Excellent, excellent. Okay, so you may have noticed my right hand, I'm not sweating over my right hand too much. Number one, I've done this a million times, so I'm pretty confident I'm only going to hit the 3 strings I intend to hit. But I can't emphasize this enough. When your left hand index finger just sort of leans over and lightly touches all the strings, including the skinnier strings that you're trying not to strum with your pick, you save yourself so much anxiety. Because who cares if you happen to hit those 3 skinny strings when your right hand has, your left hand has dampened out those strings anyways. So in my mind, this is kind of an advanced technique. Some experienced players might not even realize that they're doing this. They might have been doing it for so long, they don't think about how their left hand can dampen out unwanted notes. But look at it this way. Your right hand, if there's nothing possible that can go wrong with the right hand? If you can just be free and strum, well, you're going to play a lot more confidently with your right hand, whether it's power chords or anything. Play a lot more confidently, assuming that you're a right-handed person, because nothing can go wrong with your left hand sounds. Think of maybe the first couple of chords that you learned when you first started playing the guitar. Maybe you're learning a D chord, and someone told you, well, when you learn a D chord, you can't hit the fat string. It sounds bad. Or I've seen some books and instructors that say, well, when you play D, avoid the two fattest strings. It's not bad advice, but all of a sudden, the seed has been planted in your mind that something can go wrong when you play a D chord, and you have to be very deliberate and almost cautious with your right hand here. Okay, now we're in power chord land. In power chord land, you can get away with this, okay? You can get away with being freer and, think about your typical rock star, They're not concerned too much about hitting 2 or 3 strings very deliberately, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to do their windmill moves. But how can they get away with that? Left hand leaning over just gently and deadening the skinnier strings, plain and simple. Okay, so let's do a quick review of what we learned so far, because I'm sure you might have a few questions out there, and I'm happy to address those. Don't forget, you can always give me a call or send me an email. Happy to address any of your questions. I'd love to hear from you. These episodes go by kind of quickly, and I try to pack in a lot of information, so don't feel shy about sending me an email or give me a call on the phone. So let's talk about what you can do to expand on these power chords. A minute ago, I mentioned how your pinky can be available to add on extra sounds, extra things. So let's get right to that right now. Power chords, as they are, can have a great, almost primitive kind of sound. Terrific. But it's time to jazz them up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to play for a minute, and then I'll talk about what I've just done. Take a listen, watch my left hand here. Okay, that pinky, right? The pinky is your secret weapon. In this case, the pinky was adding on an extra note to the power chord. Those of you who are right-handed, obviously your left hand is not your dominant hand. Your pinky is probably one of your 2 weakest fingers on your body, right? Your left hand, ring, and pinky. Well, let me tell you right now that your pinky is your friend. On your left hand, your pinky can do so much for you to make you sound and make you be like a more advanced guitar player, but you have to give it a workout, okay? It's not going to happen by wishing it's going to happen. So this is a perfect example of getting your pinky finger to add on some new sounds. I've got my G power chord, and I'm choosing this G power chord, by the way, because it keeps us in a familiar territory on the guitar. For a lot of you players, you spend most of your practicing time playing down this part of the guitar, right here, this part of the neck. So I'm choosing a G power chord. But in a minute, maybe I'll illustrate this point moving higher up as well. But let's stick with the G power chord. Okay, so I've got, quick review, index finger, fat string, 3rd fret, ring finger, 5th string, 5th fret. My pinky, now this is a killer. You can do this. You might not be able to do it today, but you can do this. I remember the first time I tried this. The pinky is going to cancel out the note your ring finger is squeezing. What does that mean? The pinky is going to squeeze 7th fret, 5th string. 7th fret, 5th string. Now a few of you are already saying, nope, I can't do it. Don't worry, I'm gonna give you a tip in a minute, okay? But here's the principle. I've got my power chord, which sounds like this. My pinky is squeezing on just one string. It looks like it's squeezing on a lot of strings, right? And in fact, it is lightly touching some of the skinnier strings. If anything, that's a positive, because it's deadening out those unwanted strings. Don't worry about that. Okay, pinky is canceling out the ring finger note. So now my power chord, instead of sounding like this, it sounds like this. Okay, there's your classic rock and roll, rockabilly kind of sound. Now, I can feel it a little bit in here. And for those of you who are just trying to do that along with me, if you feel little aches and pains in here, yeah, you can feel it a little bit, okay? It gets easier, and I'm going to give you a couple of tips on how it gets easier. But yeah, you're going to feel that. Trust, though, that the more that you use your fingers, and the more that you use your pinky, and the more you play the guitar in general, your hand is going to respond. It's not going to look different when you wake up in the morning. But the more you play, you're going to find out that you can do things on Wednesday that maybe you couldn't do on Sunday or Monday. Okay. So how does it get a little bit easier? Well, a large part of it is where you put your thumb. Let's focus in on the left hand for a second here. Where your thumb is makes a huge difference. Now I'm going to flip my guitar over a little bit. Here's a tip for getting your pinky to get to the right place. See where my thumb is there? My thumb is almost equidistant between my ring and my pointer. Okay? My thumb is not way back, at the end of the guitar, but I would say my thumb is, in this case, hovering around the 4th fret. It's sort of behind the 4th fret, give or take, pointing straight up towards the ceiling. So take a look at your thumb. Get your G power chord in place. My thumb is right on the curvy round part of the neck. Some people call that the invisible thumb, meaning a listener, a fan, someone watching you play, they can't see the tip of your thumb at all. Okay? And my thumb is pointing straight up towards the ceiling. Those are a couple good reference points. Take a look and see if your thumb is pointing straight up towards the ceiling. See if your thumb is more or less, behind the 4th fret. Now I've created a little triangle. Index finger here, my thumb, you can't see it, my thumb is about here, and of course my ring finger is here. Now, what's the point? Well, that gives my pinky a fighting chance to get up high enough. Okay? You can't do it any other way. You can't do it with your thumb in any other position. Okay? But it's a little bit easier to get the pinky up if your thumb is helping out with the whole process. So in general, your thumb is going to be moving in that direction on the guitar. You can't leave your thumb way back there. Okay, now, I just illustrated this kind of rockabilly sound using a G power chord. We can make it a lot easier. If I glide up to where the frets of the guitar are closer together, higher up the neck, it gets a lot easier. Okay, so let's do this with me. Let's glide up to a C power chord. And if you don't know where C is on your fat string, it's right here at 8. C on the fat string is the 8th fret. Again, this should be a big motivation for you to memorize the names of the notes on the fat string. And you can get that information from a good teacher. You can get information from different instructional books, and certainly online. I'm sure there's ways to find diagrams of the names of every note on the guitar neck. Okay, so C power chord, index finger, 8 on the fat string, ring finger 10 on the 5th string, because they always have that relationship, remember, power chords. My pinky is going to be up here at 12. It's going to cancel out the ring finger. So we have index on the fat E string, ring finger 10 on the A string, pinky 12 on the A string. Okay? I'm going to play it for you. Just listen for a moment. Notice how, except for my pinky, the rest of my hand is static here. And that saves you a lot of time. You do not want to lift off your ring finger. You do not want to lift off your pointer finger. Just keep them glued down there. What can your thumb do to help out? Well, I'm going to stick my thumb up here. See it poking out there? My thumb is, hovering right around the 9th fret. It's parallel to the 9th fret, pointing right up towards the ceiling. Now, the reason this is easier than the G power chord we did a minute ago, the reason it's easier is because the frets are simply closer together for reasons, based on the laws of physics. The frets of the guitar get closer together. The spacing is closer as you go higher up the neck of the guitar. So the rockabilly kind of sound I'm illustrating here, based on a power chord, this sound is simply easier to do as you move up the neck in this direction. I showed you down here. Of a challenge, it gets easier. So look on the bright side. If you start teaching yourself this a little bit higher in the neck, and then day by day move down a little bit until you can do it way down here, the F power chord. It's going to be a lot easier if you start up here and gradually work your way down. And there are millions of rock and roll songs that use this type of technique. Remember, we started today's episode talking about power chords. We're still doing a power chord, but by adding on a pinky, now you've sort of, in my mind, brought that power chord to life. You've done something with it. It's not sitting there just as a lump of power. That's okay for some songs, but it's so nice to have the extra sound. Now, don't beat up on yourself if you can't get that pinky to reach up high like it's supposed to. With time, you'll be able to do it. Start on a higher position on your guitar. You'll make it happen. Quick reminder, in case it hasn't become obvious, where the pinky goes, where it gets added on, is always the same string as the ring finger, but 2 frets higher than the ring finger. If my ring finger is at 10, like it is right now, the pinky is going to be on the same string at 12. And I do 2 strums without the pinky and 2 strums with the pinky. All right, now before we run out of time here, I want to point out a few more things for you, because power chords are super useful but not particularly hard. All right, we start off with that G power chord. Go back to your G power chord position, take a good look at it. You're on the 2 fattest strings, right? Now, drop both of your fingers down 1 string towards the floor like this. See that? I was on these 2 strings, and now I'm on these 2 strings. Power chords are portable in that direction right there. You know, previously today I've been moving my power chord in this direction, right? Moving up the neck this way, and that's fine. But now I'm moving them over to a different pair of strings. In this case, my index finger is on the 5th string, 3rd fret. Ring finger, 4th string, 5th fret. My pick is going to be careful to just strum those 2 strings. Index finger leaning over, deadening out a few strings there with very light leaning. I now have a C power chord. Why? That's the note C right there. Here's my G power chord, C power chord. You might have to sit a little closer to the TV to see this subtle difference, right? Because they look almost like the same thing. It is the same grip in a new place. Okay? Now I'll play a song for you here that uses this concept of taking a power chord and then moving it to a different place. Moving it back to where it started, a different place. You might recognize this tune. Here it comes. So notice from the very beginning, I had a 1-3 power chord, meaning 1st fret, 3rd fret, a 1-3 power chord, and I dropped it down to right here. Same grip, but a different pair of strings. And so I strummed those 2 strings. And the song moved back to the fat 2 strings, 4, 6, and then moved over here, 4, 6. And the net result, okay? And now, like I said, this technique sounds fine on acoustic guitars, but of course if we had an electric guitar cranked up with some distortion, beating those chords with that confident right hand strumming, you know, the song really comes to life. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed today's episode on power chords. Again, my name is Jonathan Q+A. You've been watching the Music Corner. This show is for musicians of all levels, specifically guitar players who want to improve their skills. If you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you did, stay tuned for more episodes. Cover a lot of different things for guitar players. I'm going to rock out a little bit here. Don't forget to send an email or give us a phone call and ask any questions you have. Thanks for watching.